good evening, dear dreamer, and welcome to Whispers of the Night. Tonight, let's move gently, as if the world has agreed to quiet itself just for us. Somewhere beyond the day's last thoughts, there is a forest where tall pines stand close together, and the light between them turns soft and blue. The air there feels cool and patient, and even silence seems to have a voice. As we arrive, I find myself wondering, from which part of the world are you listening tonight? If it feels right, you can share your city or country in the comments. A small whisper from your corner of the night. Here, there's nothing to follow and nothing to solve. Only the comfort of slowing down, of letting the edges of the day blur and fade. Tonight, we'll step quietly into the blue silence between the pines and allow the night to open one gentle page at a time. Now, take a slow breath in through your nose and let it out softly, without effort. Allow your shoulders to lower, as if they no longer need to carry the weight of the day. Another breath in calm and easy, and a long, quiet exhale. Feel the surface beneath you, supporting your body completely. There's nothing you need to adjust, nothing you need to improve. Just rest. Let your jaw loosen. Let your tongue rest gently in your mouth. If your thoughts drift, that's perfectly okay. Let them pass like distant wind moving through trees. With each breath, imagine the blue hush of the forest settling around you. Cool air, tall pines, stillness that feels kind and protective. Your breathing finds its own slow rhythm now, steady and peaceful. If these quiet moments bring you comfort, you can gently subscribe to Whispers of the Night. So these calm journeys can return whenever you need rest. For now, simply breathe and allow yourself to sink deeper into ease, preparing to drift effortlessly into the story. The blue silence between the pines, arrival in the whispering mountains. Mika stepped carefully from the small, quiet train, her feet touching the wooden platform as the early morning light draped itself across the valley in soft, golden threads. The air was crisp and cool, carrying with it a scent of pine, fresh water, and the faint, earthy sweetness of the mountains after a night of gentle dew. She hugged her small backpack a little closer to her chest and drew a slow, deep breath, letting the fresh mountain air fill her lungs. It seemed as though the very atmosphere here was alive with calm, stretching and yawning like a sleepy cat, ready to welcome her all around. The valley unfolded like a painting come to life. Towering pines lined the slopes, their needles glinting faintly as the sunlight danced between them, while the distant peaks, dusted with lingering snow, shimmered with a quiet majesty that felt both vast and comforting. Small streams glimmered as they wove through the valley floor, sparkling like silver ribbons and sending gentle trickles of water over smooth stones. The sound was delicate and steady, like a quiet heartbeat hidden among the forest's breathing. Mika's eyes widened with wonder, and for a moment, she simply stood on the platform, letting herself be surrounded by this serene tapestry of color, light, and gentle motion. She stepped lightly down from the train, her boots crunching softly against the gravel path that led toward a winding trail framed by wildflowers and mossy roots. The forest beckoned her quietly, its every sound inviting her to take slow, deliberate steps and notice the little details, the way sunlight filtered through the needles, creating soft golden patterns on the forest floor, or how a tiny bird paused on a branch, tilting its head curiously before fluttering away in a whisper of wingbeat. Mika felt a warmth in her chest, a gentle hum of excitement mingled with calm, as though she had stepped into a world that had been waiting quietly for her arrival. Her backpack, though small, held the essentials she would need for her stay. Few notebooks, pencils, a small water bottle, but Mika found herself hardly thinking about practicalities. Instead, her mind lingered on the soft rhythms of the forest. She paused often, letting her gaze follow the curve of a stream that peeked between trees, listening to the delicate rustle of leaves stirred by the light morning breeze, and catching the subtle glimmer of dew on tiny wildflowers. Everything seemed alive, not in a hurried, bustling way, but in a slow, deliberate whisper that invited attention and care. Mika's steps became slower, more mindful, as if the forest itself was guiding her along the winding path. The path curved gently upward, leading her past clusters of pine and through small clearings where sunlight pooled like warm tea, spilling across the forest floor. A robin hopped across a patch of moss, its red breast vivid against the green, and a chipmunk scurried past, pausing briefly to glance at her with tiny, curious eyes. Mika smiled softly, holding her breath for a quiet moment, and then continued onward, feeling as though each gentle encounter was a small secret the forest was sharing with her. She imagined the stories these trees could tell if they could speak, the journeys of wandering birds, the soft conversations of streams, the slow growth of moss over hundreds of years, settling quietly into her mind like gentle lullabies. As she walked, Mika's thoughts drifted to the cabin she had rented for her stay, a small, cozy structure tucked just at the edge of the lake she had glimpsed from the train. The idea of a warm fire inside, the comfort of a simple wooden desk, and the possibility of spending hours with a pencil or journal filled her with anticipation. When the cabin finally appeared through the trees, it seemed almost magical. Its wooden walls were weathered but sturdy, and a soft wisp of smoke rose from the chimney, curling into the morning air. The windows reflected the turquoise water of the nearby lake, giving the sense that the cabin itself was part of the lake, mirrored in quiet harmony. Mika's pace slowed further as she approached, feeling the serene welcome of the small dwelling. Inside, the cabin was even more peaceful than she had imagined. Sunlight spilled across the wooden floors, warming the room and casting soft shadows across the simple furniture. On a small table near the window, she noticed a pair of binoculars and a neatly carved wooden journal, left behind by the previous visitor. She lifted them carefully, turning the journal over in her hands. The leather cover was smooth and warm, and the pages smelled faintly of cedar and the outdoors. It seemed like a quiet invitation, an unspoken encouragement to notice the little things, to record her observations, and to look more deeply into the world around her. Mika felt a flicker of curiosity and excitement, tempered by a calm, contented feeling that she was exactly where she needed to be. The afternoon passed in soft, gentle rhythms. Mika wandered down to the lake, her bare fingers brushing the surface of the water, feeling it cool and still beneath her touch. She watched as small ripples moved across the turquoise surface, catching the sunlight and scattering it like tiny diamonds. Birds glided low over the water, and the distant mountains rose above the treetops, their snowy peaks catching the golden light of the afternoon sun. Mika leaned back on a smooth stone at the water's edge, closing her eyes for a moment and listening. The world seemed almost impossibly quiet, yet full of subtle, comforting sounds. The gentle lap of water against rocks, the rustle of a pine branch, the occasional distant call of a loon echoing across the valley. Time drifted lazily as Mika explored the small paths along the lake's edge. She discovered hidden inlets where the water pooled in deeper shades of turquoise, and mossy stones formed tiny stepping paths over gentle streams. Every step she took was slow, deliberate, allowing her senses to drink in the sights, sounds, and smells of the forest and lake. She paused often, letting her gaze rest on the mirrored reflections of peaks and trees in the water, feeling an odd sense of smallness and yet deep belonging all at once. There was a quiet magic in this balance, a feeling that the world was speaking in subtle tones only she could hear, a language of light, movement, and calm that needed no words at all. As the sun began to dip toward the horizon, painting the sky in soft shades of pink, lavender, and gold, Mika found herself back on the porch of her cabin. The air had cooled slightly, carrying with it the scent of pine and the faint hint of snow from the distant peaks. She curled up on a simple wooden bench, tucking her legs beneath her and resting her cheek gently against her hand, just as she had imagined doing in her dreams the night before. From this vantage point, the lake seemed even more still, the mountains' reflections perfect and tranquil, and the gentle twilight deepened the sense of quiet magic. Mika felt a soft, steady rhythm in her chest, as if she had become part of the mountains themselves, breathing in harmony with the pine-scented breeze and the gentle lapping water with the last light of the day. Tiny details revealed themselves in ways she had not noticed before: the subtle shimmer of insects dancing just above the water, the faint outline of a beaver lodge tucked near a distant shore, the way the pine branches swayed ever so slightly as though nodding a quiet welcome. Each sight was absorbed slowly, carefully, letting her imagination wander into the textures and colors, the soft shapes and quiet movements of this serene world. She felt herself sinking more deeply into a sense of peace, the kind of calm that makes every heartbeat and every breath feel full and important in its own quiet way. Mika opened the wooden journal she had found earlier and turned the pages carefully. She sketched a few loose impressions of the mountains, the lake, and the pines, capturing the reflection of peaks in the turquoise water. Her pencil moved slowly, almost meditatively, and she found herself smiling as she added small details: the curve of a distant branch, the shimmer of sunlight across the water, the soft hint of a cloud drifting across the sky. Every line felt like a gentle caress, a way to hold this day and the serenity of this place close. Even as the evening shadows lengthened across the valley, as darkness crept softly into the corners of the forest and the lake's glassy surface deepened into richer shades of blue. Mika leaned back against the cabin wall, feeling the first cool touch of evening air on her skin. She listened to the subtle symphony of the forest settling down for the night, the rustle of pine needles in the breeze, the soft trickle of water in distant streams, and the occasional chirp or call of an evening bird returning to its nest. All these small, quiet sounds wrapped around her like a gentle blanket, filling her with a sense of belonging that was both comforting and tender. Finally, as twilight faded into the early hues of night, the first stars began to twinkle in the clear sky above. Mika gazed upward, tracing constellations she had learned long ago, letting her mind drift alongside the quiet movement of the heavens. She felt a soft, steady curiosity for what lay ahead: the hidden glades, the secret corners of the forest, and the quiet beauty of the lake in every shade of light. Her heart felt light and patient, knowing that each day in this valley would reveal another layer of its gentle magic as she sat there, wrapped in her shawl and the calm of the mountains. Mika realized that she felt both very small and deeply connected to the grandeur surrounding her. The quiet turquoise lake mirrored the mountains perfectly. The pines whispered softly in the evening breeze, and the forest seemed to hold its breath in welcome. She closed her eyes for a moment, listening to the subtle sounds of the night beginning, and allowed herself to drift into a calm, reflective state. Her imagination wandered gently, exploring the winding paths she had seen and wondering about the adventures that might unfold in the days to come. And as the first stars shimmered above and the mountains settled into the deep, quiet stillness of night, Mika let herself rest, her mind carrying the serene magic of Banff, the soft whispers of the pines, and the gentle, turquoise silence of the lake. Tomorrow would be a day for exploring, for wandering along hidden paths, and for discovering secrets tucked away in sunlit moss and shaded glades. But for now, she simply breathed in the calm, letting it seep into her bones and lull her gently into the soft anticipation of adventures yet to unfold. The pine-scented path, Mika awoke gently to the soft symphony of morning. Outside her cabin window, the world was already stirring, though in a way that felt slow and deliberate, like a quiet breath stretching across the mountains. The pine trees swayed lightly in the breeze, their needles brushing together with a soft, whispering rustle, and birds sang from hidden branches, their gentle melodies threading through the crisp air. She lay for a moment, letting her eyes linger on the pale light of dawn spilling across the valley, the golden sunbeams filtering through the dark green of the pines, casting delicate patterns of shadow and warmth on the forest floor. The world felt calm, inviting, and safe, and Mika allowed herself a small, contented sigh, feeling the rhythm of the mountains pulse softly in her chest. Stretching slowly, she slipped out of bed and tucked her dark brown hair neatly into a low bun, securing it with her simple mustard-colored headband. She wrapped herself in her soft teal blue shawl the folds of fabric warm against her skin, and slipped her feet into comfortable boots. The day smelled of pine, resin, and dew, crisp and fresh, and it seemed to carry a gentle promise. Today was for quiet exploration, for noticing the subtle, secret details of the forest that whispered only to those who moved slowly enough to see. Mika stepped outside, the forest greeting her with its tranquil energy. The trail she had chosen hugged the mountainside, its path cushioned with layers of soft pine needles, moss, and tiny sprigs of wildflowers that bent slightly beneath her steps. The ground gave just enough underfoot to feel comforting and alive. Each step a soft rhythm in harmony with the natural pulse of the forest. Sunlight spilled intermittently through the branches, forming patches of warm gold on the forest floor. And every now and then, she would pause to let her eyes follow a stray beam, watching it move slowly across the gentle curve of a moss-covered stone. The forest seemed to breathe around her, alive with soft movements and faint, gentle sounds, yet entirely peaceful and patient, as if it had been waiting for her to notice every little wonder hidden in its shade. As she wandered along the trail, a movement caught her eye: a small family of deer grazing quietly in a sunlit clearing. Mika froze, careful to breathe slowly, not wanting to disturb them. The fawns nuzzled their mother, their delicate legs bending and stretching in a rhythm that seemed almost choreographed, and the dappled sunlight painted them in soft gold and shadow. Mika observed them for a long while, letting her gaze drift lazily over their sleek coats and the gentle, curious glint in their eyes. It was the kind of quiet moment that seemed to expand time itself, a perfect pause where the world felt both simple and infinitely beautiful. Further along, she heard the gentle, crystalline sound of water trickling over stone. Following the delicate hum, she discovered a small waterfall hidden behind a cluster of ferns. The water danced over moss-covered rocks, sparkling as it fell, sending a fine mist into the air that caught the morning light and scattered it in faint, shimmering rainbows. Mika leaned close, inhaling the cool, fresh scent of the water mingled with pine resin, and let her fingers trace the smooth, wet stones at the waterfall's edge. She pulled out her journal and pencil, feeling the familiar comfort of recording what she saw, and began sketching the tiny patterns of light on the moss, the way droplets clung to fern fronds, and the soft, gentle shadows cast by the trees. Each stroke of her pencil was slow and deliberate, almost meditative, and she felt the rhythm of the forest settle into her mind like a soft lullaby. The path continued, winding in gentle curves through the trees, and Mika took her time, letting her eyes drift over the textures and colors around her. Leaves twirled lazily to the ground, spinning on unseen breezes, and small creeks meandered over smooth stones, their soft ripples creating a quiet, steady murmur. She paused often, letting her senses drink in the world around her, the faint scent of damp earth, the golden light filtering through pine branches, the gentle hum of life in its slow, comforting rhythm. It felt like the forest was teaching her how to move carefully, how to notice the subtle beauty in everything, and she found herself smiling softly at the sensation of belonging so completely in this quiet, green world. Eventually, the path led her to a tiny wooden bridge, old and weathered, covered with a thin layer of soft moss. Mika approached it slowly, listening to the gentle hum of the creek beneath her feet. The The boards creaked faintly as she stepped across, but the sound was warm and reassuring, echoing softly in the quiet glade around her. She paused in the middle of the bridge, leaning on the rail and letting her gaze follow the water as it slipped past smooth stones, the sun scattering across its surface in tiny glints of gold. A gentle breeze stirred, brushing her cheeks and carrying with it the sweet, resinous scent of pine and the soft hint of flowers nearby. In that moment, Mika felt perfectly at ease, suspended in the quiet beauty of the forest, fully present and fully calm. By mid-morning, she arrived at a sun-dappled meadow where light spilled generously across the grass and wildflowers. The meadow was warm under the gentle sun, and the air carried a subtle hum of life bees flitting lazily from bloom to bloom, butterflies drifting on invisible currents, and the faint rustle of grasses in the breeze. Mika found a smooth, sun-warmed rock at the edge of the meadow and settled herself there, letting the warmth seep into her bones. She closed her eyes for a moment, tilting her face toward the sun, and breathed deeply, tasting the soft sweetness of the air. Everything felt slow and unhurried, the perfect counterpoint to the quiet rhythm of her heartbeat and the gentle stirrings of the meadow around her. Opening her journal again, she sketched the golden light spilling over the wildflowers, the shadows of tall pines stretching lazily across the grass, and the delicate patterns of petals and leaves. She noticed how the sunlight seemed to make every color richer, every texture more intricate, and she let herself linger over the details, her pencil moving slowly and deliberately. Each line and curve she drew was a quiet echo of the world around her, a gentle way to capture the forest's soft, unassuming magic. The act of recording these moments became part of the rhythm of the day, a tender pause that deepened her connection to the mountain landscape. As the afternoon sun began its slow descent, the light in the meadow shifted, turning warmer, more golden, almost like honey dripping across the grass. Shadows stretched and softened, and the distant peaks glowed faintly in pinkish light, a quiet reminder of the mountain's timeless presence. Mika lingered on her rock a little longer, letting the colors and warmth seep into her skin and her mind, letting herself feel the gentle steadiness of the forest, the water, and the air. Every sound, the distant murmur of the waterfall, the flutter of leaves, the soft calls of birds blended into a soothing, harmonious lullaby that seemed to enfold her completely. As she rose to continue her walk, she felt a gentle thrill of anticipation. The faint glimmer of turquoise from Moraine Lake had lingered in her mind since her arrival. And now, as the sun began to lower behind the peaks, she could sense it drawing near. The thought of seeing the lake in its famed brilliance, mirrored by the surrounding mountains, made her chest feel light with curiosity. Yet, it was a gentle excitement, soft and inviting, rather than urgent or hurried. Each step along the pine-scented path seemed to carry her closer, the forest guiding her quietly, as if sharing its secrets only with those who truly noticed. The trail wound back toward the main path that would eventually lead to the lake, and Mika moved slowly, taking deliberate steps over the soft bed of needles and moss. She paused often to inhale the air, thick with pine resin and the faint freshness of hidden streams. She listened to the soft whispers of the forest, the gentle way it seemed to sigh with life, and allowed herself to imagine the stories of the trees and rocks, the tiny creatures scuttling unseen beneath her feet, and the water that had traveled for miles just to meet her gaze. It felt as though she was becoming part of a rhythm far older and slower than any she had known, a rhythm that existed in the soft, quiet folds of the mountains and the pine-scented trails that led through them. As the sun sank lower, painting the distant peaks with shades of pink and rose, Mika felt a deep sense of calm settle into her bones. The forest seemed to murmur her name in gentle rustles of needles, a soft invitation to continue exploring, yet also a reminder to pause and breathe. She allowed herself one last lingering look around the meadow and over the small streams, the waterfall, and the hidden nooks she had discovered that morning. Each detail had been noticed, each quiet moment savored, and she felt a sense of fulfillment and peaceful anticipation for what awaited her the following day. Turning back along the trail, Mika walked slowly, letting her gaze drift over the soft light filtering through the pines, the gentle sway of branches, and the subtle sparkle of dew still clinging to moss and leaves in shaded pockets. The path seemed almost to hum with contentment, carrying her back toward the cabin and the gentle evening that would follow. She imagined the lake, turquoise and calm, waiting quietly, and she felt a soft thrill of curiosity that was both calming and tender, a perfect balance for a mind ready to rest, yet eager to dream. By the time she reached the cabin, the light had softened into a gentle, golden haze, and the world around her seemed to exhale slowly, settling into the quiet pace of early evening. Mika paused for a final look down the pine-scented path, listening to the soft whispers of the forest and letting them linger in her ears. The mountains, the pines, the sparkling streams, all of it felt part of her now, a gentle rhythm that would carry her into sleep and into the dreams of tomorrow. She smiled softly, feeling the gentle tug of curiosity for Moraine Lake, knowing that tomorrow's journey would unfold slowly, richly, and with the same calm, observant wonder she had practiced throughout the day. And so, with a final, deep breath of the cool, pine-scented air, Mika stepped inside the cabin, her heart quiet yet filled with the soft anticipation of what the turquoise waters might reveal. The forest seemed to settle behind her, its whispers fading into a gentle lullaby, carrying her into the promise of a new day, a new path, and the slow, shimmering beauty of the mountains that lay just beyond her reach. Moraine's mirror. Mika awoke to a world painted in soft whispers of light. The first gentle touch of dawn had stretched across the mountains overnight, tinting the sky in delicate shades of rose, gold, and a tender lilac that seemed almost too soft for the eyes to hold. She lay still for a moment, letting the early morning calm settle into her chest, feeling the quiet rhythm of the mountains as if they had a heartbeat of their own. Outside her cabin, the pines stood like silent sentinels, their needles glimmering faintly with dew, each droplet catching the first glow of sunlight and scattering it in tiny, fleeting sparks. The air was cool and scented with pine and the faint, watery freshness of the lakes nearby. Mika felt the soft pull of anticipation in her chest. Today she would visit Moraine Lake, a place she had imagined since she first glimpsed its turquoise waters from the train. She dressed slowly, her dark brown hair swept into a low bun, secured with her mustard-colored headband, and wrapped herself in her soft teal-blue shawl. She tied her boots carefully, feeling the comforting weight of her small backpack against her shoulders, and then stepped outside. The world seemed to exhale around her, each gentle sound, the rustle of pine needles, the distant call of a waking bird, the soft sigh of the wind over the mountains, folding together in a quiet melody. She set off along the narrow trail, the needles and moss beneath her feet cushioning every step in soft, muted thuds. The path wound carefully through the forest, letting the light dance across her path in patches of warm gold, and Mika moved slowly, breathing deeply of the crisp mountain air and listening to the delicate rhythm of life around her. As she walked, the sky began to brighten, the colors deepening and shifting, painting the distant peaks in soft pinks and warm apricots. Each mountain seemed to glow from within, its snow-capped peaks reflecting the sun's first rays, and in that glow, Mika felt a sense of wonder that made her chest feel both small and vast at the same time. The trail began to descend gently, curving around the forested slopes until the trees parted just enough to reveal a glimpse of turquoise far below. Her heart lifted with quiet excitement as she followed the path carefully, each step bringing her closer to the water she had longed to see. When Mika finally reached the shoreline of Moraine Lake, she paused, letting the scene settle around her. The lake stretched out like liquid sapphire, perfectly still, holding a secret twin world beneath its glassy surface. The 10 peaks rose around it like silent guardians, their rugged shapes softened by the morning light, and the water mirrored each ridge and tree with perfect clarity. It was as though the world had folded in on itself, creating a delicate, serene reflection that was both breathtaking and soothing. She knelt at the water's edge, letting her bare fingers touch the cool, smooth surface. Tiny ripples spread outward as a fish slipped beneath her touch, sending shimmering waves across the mirrored mountains. The quiet was profound, but not empty. Birds glided low over the lake, their soft wings slicing through the stillness without breaking it, and the faint echo of a loon's call carried across the water, a gentle and natural rhythm that seemed to match the sway of the pines. Mika took a slow breath, letting the scents of damp pine, cold water, and faint earthiness fill her lungs. Each inhalation seemed to draw the lake and the mountains deeper into her being. A slow, unhurried meditation on color, sound, and texture, she found. A smooth, rounded rock near the shoreline and settled herself on it, drawing her knees close and opening her journal. Pencil in hand, she began to capture the mirrored peaks, the delicate clusters of pine, and the soft undulations of the lake's edge. Each stroke was slow, deliberate, almost like a whisper, tracing the quiet shapes and colors she had come to love in this serene place. She sketched the patterns of light on the water, the faint shadows of distant trees stretching across the lake, and the subtle shimmer of the sun on the distant snow. The act of drawing seemed to anchor her to the moment, letting her notice details she might have otherwise missed: the faint curl of mist rising from the water, the small ripple of a breeze over the surface, or the delicate way a bird hovered for a heartbeat before gliding onward. A small canoe sat nearby, tied loosely to a weathered wooden post at the edge of the lake. Its smooth, worn wood invited exploration, and Mika's fingers itched gently to touch it. She approached slowly, dipping the paddle into the water, and then, with a soft push, she let the canoe drift away from shore. The water cradled it effortlessly, the gentle lap of the lake against its hull blending with the soft hum of wind through the trees. Mika's eyes scanned the mirrored world around her, each ridge, each pine, and each subtle reflection seemingly doubled in the lake's glassy calm. The world narrowed to the motion of the canoe, the quiet rhythm of water, and the serene, enveloping stillness of the lake as she drifted. She noticed a small inlet tucked behind a cluster of pines and wildflowers. The water here was shallower, tinged with green and gold, where the sun pierced through the leaves. Tiny blooms grew along the water's edge, their petals catching the light, delicate and bright against the soft shadows. A family of ducks glided past, their gentle movements creating faint ripples that shimmered across the water's mirrored surface. Mika followed them with her gaze for a long moment, captivated by their serene passage, and then let her pencil drift once again over her journal, recording the quiet choreography of life around her. Time seemed to slow each movement of the canoe, a deliberate meditation, each ripple and reflection, a note in the soft symphony of the morning. She let her mind wander lazily, observing the subtle interactions of light and shadow, water and sky, mountain and forest, and feeling the calm settle into her very bones. The lake seemed to breathe along with her, rising and falling in gentle, rhythmic motion, and in that rhythm, Mika found a profound sense of belonging and quiet wonder. Eventually, the canoe brought her back toward the shoreline, though she lingered as long as she could, savoring the serene perfection of the mirrored mountains. The colors of the lake deepened slightly as the sun climbed higher, the rose and gold of dawn softening into a brighter, gentler light that illuminated the trees and the peaks with a warmth that felt almost tangible. Mika stepped from the canoe, slowly, letting her feet sink briefly into the cool, soft mud at the water's edge, feeling the solid, comforting presence of the earth beneath her. She paused once more, letting her gaze wander across the lake, drinking in the tranquil beauty, and imprinting it gently into her memory. As she walked along the shoreline, she noticed tiny details she had not seen before: the faint pattern of lichen on a pine trunk, the soft curl of a leaf drifting down from a branch, the gentle shimmer of water insects skimming the surface of the lake. Each small observation added to the richness of her experience, letting her slow further, notice deeper, and feel more fully connected to this quiet world. She sketched these details in her journal as well, allowing the act of drawing to become a kind of meditation, an extension of the calm she had found in the mirrored water and the surrounding forest. A gentle breeze stirred, carrying the scent of pine and cold water over the lake. Mika inhaled slowly, feeling it sweep through her hair, brush across her cheeks, and settle into her lungs, bringing with it a quiet sense of refreshment. The sound of the loon's call echoed faintly in the distance, punctuating the calm with its soft, haunting melody, while the rustle of distant branches added a subtle harmony to the morning's symphony. The world felt expansive, yet intimate, vast, yet comforting. Mika felt herself folding into this harmony, her thoughts drifting alongside the gentle lap of water, the movement of clouds above, and the serene reflections in the lake. By late morning, the sun had risen fully, bathing the peaks and lake in a clear, bright light. Mika reluctantly set aside her journal, feeling satisfied with her sketches, but unwilling to leave the calm of the water just yet. She wandered a little further along the shoreline, letting her fingertips skim the lake, watching the way the sunlight caught on the ripples and danced across the mirrored mountains. She noticed the subtle patterns of color in the rocks beneath the water's surface, the faint shimmer of fish gliding lazily, and the gentle sway of the tall pines that lined the far edge of the lake. Each movement, each sound, each reflection was small but profound, a quiet reminder of the harmony and grace present in every detail of the natural world. Eventually, Mika made her way back to the small cabin that had become her home in the mountains. She paused at the water's edge, taking one last long look at the mirrored peaks, letting the serenity of the morning linger in her chest. She knew the forest trails beyond the lake awaited her, secret paths lined with moss and ferns, and she felt a soft, eager curiosity for what those explorations would reveal. Yet, even as she stepped back along the shoreline, the lake seemed to follow her gaze, its glassy reflection etched gently into her memory, a quiet companion for all the days to come. The sun climbed steadily, casting a warm glow over the pine air, and Mika walked with slow, unhurried steps along the trail that would return her to the paths she had yet to explore. Each footfall on the soft earth beneath her boots felt rhythmic, grounding, and the distant mountains stood like patient guides, silent yet reassuring. She allowed herself to linger over the faintest details, from the subtle patterns of moss along the rocks to the occasional flicker of bird wings between trees, letting every small wonder settle softly into her mind. The lake, the mirrored peaks, the whispering pines, they all became part of her rhythm, a quiet heartbeat in sync with her own. As she moved further into the forest, Mika felt the soft thrill of anticipation for the hidden glades, mossy streams, and quiet corners of the woods that awaited her. The lake's reflection stayed with her, a vivid, calm memory, and the thought of exploring more of this serene world filled her with gentle, peaceful excitement. She stepped along the pine-scented path with slow, deliberate care, allowing the quiet whispers of the forest to guide her, the subtle hum of the world around her, wrapping itself around her like a comforting blanket. Each step, each breath, and each glance seemed to deepen the connection she felt to this place, a connection rooted in calm observation, quiet wonder, and gentle curiosity. By the time Mika returned to the cabin for a brief rest, the memory of Moraine Lake remained vivid and luminous in her mind, a quiet treasure she would carry with her into tomorrow's adventures. The mirrored peaks, the turquoise water, the gentle rustle of pines, and the soft lap of the lake had imprinted themselves into her heart, leaving her peaceful, reflective, and quietly eager for the forest paths she had yet to uncover. She paused on the cabin's porch, letting the warmth of the sun, the scent of pine, and the distant shimmer of the lake fill her senses once more, before settling herself down with her journal to record the soft magic of the morning. And so, with the mirrored lake behind her and the forest trails stretching ahead, Mika felt the gentle tug of curiosity, soft, comforting, and serene, leading her forward into the slow, unhurried promise of discovery and quiet beauty that the rest of the day held. Hidden glade and sunlit moss. The morning arrived gently, with a soft hush settling over the forest. Mika stirred from sleep as the first slivers of sunlight filtered through the cabin windows, painting pale gold streaks across the floor. The air smelled faintly of pine, moss, and cool water lingering from overnight dew, carrying a freshness that invited slow, deep breaths. She wrapped herself in her teal-blue shawl, the soft folds warming her shoulders, and brushed her dark brown hair into a low bun, securing it with her mustard-colored headband. Stepping outside, she felt the cool morning air brush against her cheeks, and the forest greeted her quietly, as if it had been waiting for her to explore its secret corners. Today, she decided she would follow a side trail she had noticed the day before, one that curved away from the lake and led deeper into the dense, quiet forest. The path was soft beneath her boots, cushioned with years of fallen pine needles and moss that gave a subtle springiness to each step. Sunlight streamed through the tall pines, filtering down in golden shafts that illuminated small patches of moss on tree trunks and the forest floor, making the greenery shimmer as though each blade and frond held a tiny hidden sun. Every detail seemed heightened in this still, hushed place. The gentle swish of a branch, the faint rustle of a leaf, the soft hum of life in every shadowed corner. Mika breathed slowly, letting the sounds and scents of the forest settle into her mind and fill her chest with a quiet, rhythmic calm. She paused frequently, noticing things she hadn't before: the curl of a delicate fern unfurling from the forest floor, the way dew clung to a spider's web, glinting in the sunlight like tiny scattered jewels, and the distant rustle of a squirrel hopping from branch to branch. Each sound and movement seemed amplified in the stillness of the tall pines, as if the forest itself had lowered its voice to welcome her gently. Mika felt the world slow around her, the usual rush of hours and minutes dissolving into the hush of the woods. She allowed herself to wander without hurry, letting the forest guide her feet over moss-covered rocks, past thick roots, and around gentle bends where light pooled like warm honey. As she approached, the air seemed to shift subtly, carrying a faint, sweet fragrance of wildflowers mixed with the cool freshness of a trickling stream. The glade was encircled by ancient trees, their gnarled roots twisting into the earth, moss climbing their trunks in soft, vibrant layers. A crystal-clear stream meandered through the space, water gently tumbling over smooth stones, sending a delicate murmur into the quiet air. Mika slowed to a gentle halt at the edge of the stream, taking in the scene. Her eyes traced the way light danced on the water's surface, the subtle shimmer of moss, and the tiny petals scattered along the path. The glade felt almost otherworldly, a hidden pocket of time where the outside world could not intrude, and Mika's heart softened with a sense of serene awe. She found a flat stone near the stream and settled herself there, letting her knees curl close. The warmth of the sunlight on her back mingled with the coolness of the stream nearby, creating a gentle balance that seemed to seep into her bones. Pulling out her journal, she began to sketch the scene slowly and deliberately, capturing the way sunlight lit the mossy rocks, the curl of ferns, and the gentle flow of the stream over smooth stones. Her pencil moved with quiet rhythm, each stroke like a soft meditation, drawing her ever deeper into the calm of the glade. She paused occasionally to lift her gaze, noticing a subtle ripple on the water or the delicate shimmer of a leaf drifting down from a branch above. The forest seemed to breathe with her, a slow, steady rhythm that carried a sense of timelessness. A gentle breeze stirred the glade, carrying with it the soft, sweet scent of wildflowers tucked among the moss and rocks. Mika closed her eyes briefly, letting the fragrance drift into her lungs, imagining the stories each tree could tell if it could speak, the memories held in every stone and branch, the rustle of leaves overhead, the gentle trickle of the stream, and the occasional soft chirp of a bird, all blended into a quiet symphony, perfectly balanced and calming. In this hidden corner, Mika felt a sense of stillness so deep it was almost tangible, as though the glade itself existed outside ordinary time, a place where the world slowed to match the soft rhythm of her own heart. She opened her journal again, writing a few lines about the tranquil pace of the forest, the harmony of water, stone, and light, and the way the sun's golden beams made every detail glow softly. The simple act of recording these observations felt like a quiet conversation with the glade itself, each word and sketch a small offering of attention and care. As she lifted her pencil from the page, she noticed movement at the edge of the clearing, a squirrel pausing on a branch, its tiny paws resting delicately on the bark, eyes bright and curious before it disappeared again into the shelter of leaves. Mika smiled softly at the fleeting encounter, allowing herself to linger on the small wonders of the forest that often went unnoticed. Following the stream a little further, she discovered a natural wooden bench nestled beneath the sprawling branches of a giant cedar. The bench was worn smooth by time, its wood infused with the gentle scent of pine, and it seemed made precisely for quiet reflection. Mika sat, resting her hands on her knees, feeling the texture of the moss-softened ground beneath her, and listened to the glade. The sun's rays filtered through the cedar branches, scattering dappled light across the stream and the moss-covered stones. Water trickled over the rocks in a gentle rhythm, tiny ripples catching the light and creating miniature reflections of sky and branch. The soft murmur of the forest, amplified by the hush of the tall pines, seemed to whisper secrets only those who moved slowly enough could hear. Mika let herself drift in the quiet, letting her thoughts become gentle ripples in the calm pond of her mind. She traced the patterns in the moss with her gaze, noticing the intricate designs of lichen and the subtle shifts in green from shaded nooks to sunlit patches. The forest felt alive, yet patient, alive in the softest, most deliberate way, where every sound and movement was noticed and celebrated without haste. A butterfly drifted lazily past, its wings catching the sun for a brief, shimmering moment before it floated into the shade. She followed its path with her eyes, marveling at the delicate grace, then returned her attention to the stream, letting the water's gentle flow lull her into a meditative calm. Time seemed to dissolve, the morning stretching gently into early afternoon. Mika wandered a little further along the trail, her bare fingers brushing the moss on rocks, the sun warming her shoulders, and the quiet symphony of the forest wrapping around her. Each step was deliberate, absorbed the subtle textures, colors, and sounds of the forest. She noticed how the sunlight pooled in golden patches, how shadows shifted delicately with every slight movement of the trees, and how the forest seemed to hum in soft, reassuring tones. Even the distant rustle of leaves, the faint snap of a twig underfoot, and the occasional bird call added layers to the meditative rhythm she felt deep in her chest. Eventually, Mika realized the side trail began to curve gently back toward Moraine Lake. The sunlight had softened, turning warmer and more golden, stretching long shadows across the moss-covered glade. She took a slow, deliberate pace, feeling a soft sense of satisfaction and peace at having discovered this hidden corner of the forest. The glade's tranquility lingered in her mind, a quiet memory she could carry with her, a gentle reminder of the beauty that exists in careful attention and quiet observation. Before leaving completely, she paused one last time at the wooden bench, resting her hands lightly on the smooth, sun-warmed surface. She closed her eyes briefly, listening to the soft murmur of the stream, the faint whisper of wind through the cedar, and the gentle chorus of life in the surrounding forest. Each sound, each detail, seemed part of a slow, timeless rhythm, a rhythm that both comforted and inspired, teaching her that peace often lives in the small, subtle moments she might have overlooked. Toward the lake, she felt a soft, anticipatory curiosity for the evening that would follow. The forest had shared its quiet magic with her today, the gentle sunlight, the mossy textures, the hidden stream, and the secret gladden she carried. These treasures in her heart. The path curved gently, the air shimmering with the soft warmth of late afternoon, and the shadows of tall trees stretched across her way, guiding her forward with a gentle, reassuring hush. The forest seemed to murmur its quiet farewell as she moved, leaves rustling softly in a cadence that matched her footsteps, the moss releasing faint, earthy scents beneath her boots, and the light brushing her cheeks in a warm glow. Mika's mind wandered lazily over the sketches she had made, the small details she had noticed, and the serene rhythm of the glade that had felt almost timeless. She felt her heartbeat match the gentle pace of the forest, steady and calm, carrying her forward toward the lake and the soft promise of evening reflections. With the glade and its hidden stream behind her, Mika continued along the path with slow, deliberate care, each step bringing a sense of quiet anticipation for the next chapter of her day. The golden light of the setting sun danced across the forest floor, highlighting moss, ferns, and the occasional delicate bloom along the trail. Each shadow and shimmer felt like a secret the forest was sharing with her alone, a gentle invitation to continue noticing, appreciating, and moving through the serene wilderness in her own unhurried rhythm. By the time she neared Moraine Lake once again, the forest's magic lingered in her mind, a soft, meditative calm that would carry her through the evening. The hidden glade, the sunlit moss, the trickling stream, and the gentle sway of ancient trees had all imprinted themselves in her heart, leaving her ready to settle beside the lake, reflect on the day, and gently prepare for whatever wonders awaited along the pine-scented paths tomorrow. twilight on the turquoise. As the afternoon light softened into the gentle embrace of evening, Mika felt a quiet pull guiding her back to Moraine Lake. The forest trail she followed was steeped in golden shadows, each pine casting elongated shapes that stretched lazily across the path. The air had shifted subtly, carrying a crispness that hinted at the coming night. It was the kind of evening that seemed to pause time when the world itself slowed, allowing every sound, scent, and shimmer to be noticed and appreciated. Mika's shawl wrapped softly around her shoulders, the folds comforting against the coolness that settled in her chest and fingertips. She moved slowly, letting her boots press softly into the cushion of moss and needles beneath her, each step an unhurried rhythm in harmony with the gentle hush of the forest. By the time she emerged onto the lakeshore, the scene before her had transformed. Moraine Lake lay still and radiant, its waters now a soft violet, reflecting the deepening hues of twilight. The 10 peaks stood around it, their jagged tops softened by the dimming light, the last touches of gold and pink fading into muted lavender and gentle shadows. Mika paused, letting her gaze linger on the mirrored world beneath the water, marveling at the way the lake held the peaks in perfect reflection, as though capturing the last whispers of the day. The air was cool, scented faintly with pine, moss, and a whisper of frost that hinted at the approaching night, carrying the subtle thrill of evening without ever startling or rushing her. She found a quiet spot near the water's edge, where smooth stones met the soft earth, and spread a small blanket to sit upon, curling her legs close and wrapping her shawl around herself. Mika opened her journal and began to arrange the sketches she had made throughout the day. The faint rustle of pages in the gentle breeze became a comforting rhythm, almost blending with the soft lap of water against the shore. Fireflies began to appear, tiny lanterns flickering along the reeds and grasses, their faint glow delicate and fleeting, like whispers of light floating just above the surface. Mika's eyes followed each small flicker with a gentle curiosity, her chest light with the peaceful rhythm of observation. She leaned back slightly, letting her head rest against the soft folds of her shawl, and traced the shapes of the reflected peaks in the lake. Each ridge and tree seemed to shimmer under the violet light, creating a secret twin world beneath the surface, a world that existed for those patient enough to notice. She noticed the subtle movement of fish beneath the glassy water, the faint ripple of scales glinting in the fading light, and the soft, almost imperceptible stir of nocturnal creatures beginning to emerge from the forest's shadowed edges. Each small motion was a quiet invitation to remain still, to listen, to observe, and to let the calm of the evening settle into her bones. The sky above deepened into a richer violet, with hints of navy gathering along the edges where the peaks met the horizon. Mika traced the changing colors with her eyes, allowing herself to drift between the reflection in the water and the sky above, noticing how the two seemed to converse, each echoing the other in subtle waves of color and shadow. The last hints of sunlight glowed faintly on the ridges, casting a soft silver-gold streak along the jagged stone, and the pine's silhouettes grew taller and more delicate against the evening sky. She felt her breath slow to match the gentle rhythm of the lake, each inhale carrying the crisp scent of pine and soft frost, each exhale releasing any lingering tension in her shoulders, drawing her journal to her knees. Mika began to capture the subtle, meditative beauty of the moment. Her pencil moved with slow, deliberate care, sketching the mirrored peaks, the gentle ripples caused by the fish, the faint shimmer of fireflies above the reeds. She paused frequently, lifting her gaze to compare the reflections on the water with the real shapes of the mountains, the soft sway of the trees, and the gradual darkening of the sky. The act of recording these details became a quiet meditation, each stroke a gentle conversation with the world around her, grounding her in the soft rhythm of twilight. A faint breeze drifted across the lake, carrying the earthy scent of pine, the cool hint of water, and the delicate sweetness of wildflowers tucked along the shore. Mika inhaled deeply, letting the scents mix and settle, and allowed her mind to drift with the slow rise and fall of the lake's mirrored surface. The fireflies flickered and danced, moving in and out of the shadows, their tiny lights punctuating the deepening violet with sparks of gentle luminescence. She watched them for a long moment, imagining each tiny flicker as a secret greeting from the lake, a quiet acknowledgement of her presence and her patient attention. As the shadows lengthened and the violet deepened, Mika noticed the subtle hum of the forest settling into night. Birds had quieted, their evening calls fading into soft echoes, replaced by the gentle rustle of small animals stirring in the undergrowth. The faint, distant splash of a fish breaking the water's surface echoed softly across the lake, a delicate counterpoint to the murmur of the ripples along the shore. Mika felt the evening's tranquility seep into her bones. Each sound, each motion, each glimmer of light wrapping around her like a comforting blanket. A pale moon began to rise over the peaks, casting gentle silver streaks across the lake's turquoise surface, painting the reflected mountains with a soft, ethereal glow. Mika's eyes traced the silver path from the peaks down to the mirrored water, marveling at the way the reflection seemed to float just beneath the surface, a secret twin world illuminated by moonlight. The quiet was profound, but it was a rich, comforting quiet filled with life and rhythm, movement and stillness, all in perfect balance. She felt as though she could remain there forever, curled on her blanket, letting the cool night air, the gentle scents, and the soft whispers of the lake lull her into an even deeper awareness of peace. Her journal lay open, filled with sketches from the day, yet she let her gaze drift away from the paper to watch the lake itself. The peaks shimmered softly in silver and violet, the water cradling their reflection as though protecting it from the world. Mika noticed the faint, delicate ripples made by unseen fish, the way the reeds swayed gently with the night breeze, and the flicker of distant stars beginning to appear overhead, pale pinpricks in the deepening sky. Each detail, though subtle, felt amplified in the calm of twilight, as though the lake and forest were unfolding their quiet secrets only for her, patient and gentle in their rhythm. She leaned back fully, letting the blanket cradle her, and closed her eyes for a long, slow breath. The cool night air brushed her face, carrying the subtle fragrance of pine and frost, and the soft, quiet hum of nocturnal life surrounded her. Her mind drifted easily, like a canoe floating on the lake, guided only by the slow, steady pulse of evening. She imagined the reflection beneath the water as a secret world, a hidden place of calm where the mountains, trees, and sky existed in perfect harmony. Each thought was gentle, each breath slow, and each heartbeat steady, matched to the rhythm of the lake, the forest, and the settling night. Mika opened her eyes once more to watch the moon rise higher, pale and luminous, casting long silver streaks across the water. The reflected mountains glowed softly, and the turquoise of the lake seemed to deepen under the moonlight, a quiet, hidden jewel cradled by the peaks. She imagined what life might be like in this mirrored world where time moved. Slowly, shadows and light mingled effortlessly, and each small ripple of water held a story whispered only to those who listened. The evening was soft and unhurried, a perfect counterpoint to the day's explorations, and Mika felt a gentle contentment settle into her chest, like a warm, invisible hand resting lightly over her heart. She watched as the fireflies continued their delicate dance, tiny flickers floating above the water and along the reeds. Each movement a soft punctuation in the quiet symphony of the night. The stars twinkled faintly above, and the soft, distant echo of a loon called across the lake, its sound slow, deliberate, and comforting. Mika allowed herself to sink fully into the calm, tracing the reflections of the peaks and pines with her eyes, letting the soft violet and silver of twilight fill her vision, and letting the world's gentle rhythm lull her mind. Eventually, she curled her legs closer beneath her and rested her journal beside her, letting the quiet observation of the lake carry her thoughts toward a gentle, meditative state. The lake mirrored the mountains, the moonlight, and the fading glow of twilight perfectly, and Mika felt as though she were part of both worlds at once, balanced between the real and the reflected, between the visible and the imagined. Her breath slowed, her heartbeat softened, and the chill of evening was balanced by the warmth of the blanket and the cozy folds of her shawl as darkness deepened. The pale moon continued its ascent, casting silver light across the glassy water, painting every ripple and reflection with soft luminescence. Mika imagined herself floating lightly across the lake, moving silently through the mirrored peaks and moonlit pines, carried by the quiet pulse of the water and the gentle breath of the forest. The lake, she thought, was a secret world, serene and patient, a place where the hush of night could be felt in every detail, where stillness became its own gentle story. When she finally lay back fully on her blanket, tucking her arms beneath her head, Mika felt the calm of the evening settle completely into her bones. The reflections of the mountains, the soft violet of twilight, the silver light of the moon, and the tiny flickers of fireflies all wrapped around her like a quiet lullaby. Her thoughts drifted slowly toward tomorrow, toward the soft anticipation of watching the first light touch the peaks once more, carrying the serenity of this night gently forward. The lake whispered its quiet secrets to her, and she let the sound lull her mind into the perfect balance of calm and curiosity. Morning hues and whispering pines. The world was still. Mika woke in the soft cradle of dawn, her eyes opening to a pale blue light that filtered gently through the cabin window. The air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of pine and the delicate chill of early morning. She stretched slowly, feeling the quiet calm of the night linger in her bones. A gentle weight that was neither heavy nor hurried, but perfectly measured for a moment of reflection, pulling on her soft, teal-blue shawl, wrapping it snugly around her shoulders. She secured her dark brown hair in a low bun with the mustard-colored headband and stepped outside, her bare boots pressing softly into the frost-kissed earth. The shoreline of Moraine Lake stretched before her, washed in delicate shades of blue that seemed to soften the edges of the world. The 10 peaks surrounding the lake were tinted in pale aquamarine and misted lavender, their jagged tops softened by the morning haze. Every ridge, every tree, every ripple on the water glimmered faintly in the early light, as if the lake itself were breathing quietly, waiting for someone to notice its hush. Mika moved slowly along the shore, each step measured and gentle, letting her eyes trace the reflections of the mountains mirrored perfectly in the still turquoise water. Even the slightest ripple, caused by a passing fish or a stray breeze, seemed amplified in this serene world, a subtle whisper of movement in the silence. She paused frequently, allowing herself to take in the delicate layers of morning. The forest around her was wrapped in soft blue haze, the pines swaying ever so slightly in the gentle morning wind. It was a silence that felt alive, filled with the faintest sounds, the distant call of a loon echoing across the water, the tiny splash of a fish beneath the surface, the whisper of wind threading its way through the trees. Mika's breaths slowed to match the rhythm of the quiet, each inhale drawing in the crisp scent of pine and the earthy perfume of the forest floor, each exhale releasing the last remnants of sleep and worry. The world felt protective, as though the mountains and trees themselves were embracing her in their silent, steady presence. She found a large, flat rock at the edge of the lake, worn smooth by centuries of wind and water. Sitting down carefully, she curled her legs beneath her, resting her shawl against the rock's cool surface. Her journal lay open on her knees, ready for her last sketches of this tranquil place. Mika lifted her pencil slowly, tracing the soft contours of the mirrored peaks, the delicate patterns of light dancing on the water, the gentle sway of the pines reflected beneath the surface. Each stroke was deliberate, a quiet meditation, allowing her to capture not only the shapes and colors, but the mood, the calm, the pause between breaths, the subtle heartbeat of the natural world above her. A flock of birds began to rise from the forest, moving in soft, fluid arcs over the lake. Their wings cut lightly through the blue air, leaving a faint rustle that blended seamlessly with the distant call of the loon and the gentle whisper of the breeze. Mika watched them with slow fascination, noticing the way the sunlight struck, their feathers making tiny glimmers of gold and silver. It was a moment that felt suspended in time, a delicate thread of life moving gracefully across the stillness of morning. She allowed herself to linger on each detail, the way the water caught the light in soft, pale ripples, the subtle shadows of the mountains, the glimmering tips of pine needles brushing the sky. A thin mist began to curl along the water's edge, drifting in gentle ribbons over the lake like silk. The mist softened the line between reflection and reality, making the peaks appear almost as though they were floating above the water rather than mirrored within it. Mika's gaze followed the mist as it curled around rocks and reeds, swirling slowly, and she felt the world quiet even further, a hushed blue silence that settled over everything. She imagined the lake as a secret world, a serene twin of the one she could see, existing just beneath the surface and waiting patiently for those willing to notice its calm, subtle rhythms. She opened her journal once more, letting her pencil drift over the page with ease. She sketched the peaks mirrored in the turquoise water, the mist curling around the edges, the pines reaching gently toward the sky. The act of drawing was soothing, the soft scrape of graphite across paper blending with the gentle sounds around her, from the distant ripple of water to the soft rustle of forest life awakening. Each line she drew felt like a quiet conversation with the world, each stroke a note in the tranquil symphony of early morning. Mika closed her eyes briefly, inhaling the cool, fragrant air. She could feel the frost lingering in the grass and moss, the subtle dampness of the lake touching her skin with the slightest chill. The world felt protective, almost reverent, as though it, too, appreciated the stillness of this moment. She imagined the forests and mountains breathing with her, the wind threading softly through the pines, the lake holding the reflections of sky and peaks in perfect, gentle balance. In this soft blue silence, Mika felt her heart expand with quiet, gratitude, and awareness of the beauty and calm she had been gifted over the past days. As she opened her eyes again, she noticed the delicate shimmer of movement beneath the water's surface. Fish glided slowly through the reflected mountains, their scales catching the early light like tiny flashes of silver. Small insects skimmed across the lake's surface, leaving soft ripples that curved outward in gentle circles. The rhythm of these motions blended seamlessly with the other subtle sounds, the soft rustle of a pine branch in the morning breeze, the distant loon calling across the water, the quiet flap of birds rising higher into the sky. Mika felt her heartbeat align with these rhythms, steady and slow, in perfect harmony with the tranquil world around her. The forest seemed to awaken gradually, but in a soft, measured way. Birds chirped faintly in the distance, their songs light and delicate, weaving through the mist and soft light. The smell of damp earth and pine grew slightly stronger as the sun climbed, brushing pale gold along the edges of the mountains. Mika's gaze traced the light shifting across the peaks, the faint shimmer on the lake's surface, and the mist curling over the reeds. Each movement was subtle, unhurried, and deeply calming, a gentle reminder of how patient and quiet the natural world could be when one simply stopped to notice. She breathed deeply, savoring the sensation of being fully present. Her mind drifted gently over the days she had spent in this serene wilderness, the hidden glades where sunlight illuminated moss like soft golden velvet, the mirrored reflections of the lake, the gentle hum of the forest paths, and the quiet, meditative evenings by the water. Every memory carried its own layer of calm, each one wrapping around her heart with the gentle touch of familiarity. Mika felt a deep connection to this place, a sense that she was both small within the grandeur of the mountains and yet intimately part of it, a quiet participant in the soft rhythms of the forest, lake, and sky. A light wind stirred, brushing faintly over the lake and curling around Mika, carrying the scent of pine, damp earth, and the tiniest hint of frost still lingering from the night. She closed her eyes briefly, letting the air envelop her like a protective cloak. feeling the subtle textures of the blanket beneath her and the smooth coolness of the rock she sat on, the gentle sounds of the lake ripples, distant calls, rustling, leaves combined with the faint sparkle of early sunlight on the water, creating a cocoon of calm around her. It was a silence that held weight and warmth, a blue silence that seemed to settle into her very bones. Slowly, she opened her journal, one last time, sketching the peaks mirrored in the turquoise water, the soft curl of mist along the lake, the pines reaching skyward. She wrote a few quiet lines about the subtle magic she had discovered in the past days: the sunlit moss, the hidden glades, the mirrored lake, and the evening whispers of fireflies dancing along the shore. Each word felt like a small offering of attention and care, a way of marking the serenity that had filled her heart and mind. Birds began to rise in small, gentle flocks above the lake, their soft wings beating through the cool morning air. The sound was light and rhythmic, a quiet chorus that added to the delicate symphony of nature. Mika watched them drift gracefully across the pale blue sky, marveling at their effortless movement, and allowed her mind to drift along with them, imagining the day unfolding slowly, patiently, and with gentle care. The mist thickened slightly, curling around reeds and rocks in delicate spirals, casting a soft veil over the lake's mirrored surface. Mika traced the reflections with her eyes, noticing how the subtle blue of the morning light deepened the turquoise shimmer, making the world feel like a secret place held close and safe. The peaks and forest seemed suspended, balanced in quiet perfection, and Mika felt her heart absorb the calm, a quiet certainty that such moments existed always, ready for those who moved gently enough to notice. She lingered there for a long while, breathing slowly, observing quietly, letting the soft blue silence of morning fill her completely. Each detail, the flicker of a fish beneath the water, the ripple of wind across the lake, the faint call of a loon, the delicate curl of mist, was a thread weaving her into the fabric of the forest and mountains. Her heart felt both expansive and still, a delicate harmony of awe, gratitude, and peaceful reflection. Eventually, Mika rose slowly, feeling the weightless comfort of the morning linger as she walked back along the shoreline toward the cabin. Her steps were unhurried, each one a quiet acknowledgement of the beauty she had witnessed. She glanced back once at the lake, now shimmering faintly in the pale blue light, the peaks mirrored perfectly, the mist curling softly at the edges, and felt the profound stillness settle deep into her heart. The blue silence between the pines, she realized, was something she could carry, always a gentle memory of calm, reflection, and quiet connection with the world around her. With the cabin just ahead, the gentle sounds of the morning still whispering in her ears, Mika's mind felt light, serene, and full of wonder. She knew she would leave this place soon, yet the quiet magic she had discovered here, the hidden glades, the mirrored lake, the sunlit moss, and the soft whispers of evening and dawnwood remain with her, a soft, enduring lullaby that she could return to whenever she wished. The forest, mountains, and lake had shared their calm freely, and she felt both grateful and peaceful, ready to carry this sense of stillness into the days to come. Thank you for spending this quiet night with me. May the blue silence stay with you as you sleep. Let your thoughts fade, soft and unimportant. You are safe. And the night is gentle. Good night, dear dreamer.